Oh, it's on. Oh, good. All right. Well, welcome. We're going to do a little perfect. I guess, when we scheduled this, I didn't realize it was going to be Earth Day, but how fitting it is to have, and it's a beautiful day out. Too bad we're not outside right now, but when we scheduled this, didn't know it was going to be Earth Day, but good time to talk about cycling and getting you guys out, either if you ride a lot or if you're new to riding. That's the kind of things we'll talk about. So by all means, at any point, let us know if you've got questions. So we try to, every year we do this, we try to revamp it a little bit. So revamped it a little bit this year, a little bit simpler this year as we go through this. Try to change the slide presentation a little bit. We will talk about some of the in-street stuff and stuff going on tomorrow here in Lincoln, if you weren't aware of. With that, so the new cycle track that we have. So I tried to throw in some different, the background pictures are different pictures I have taken over the years, most of them on different rides and places I've been, so you'll kind of see those as we follow along with that. So introduction, my name is Brent Davis. I've been biking probably close to 19 years now. I've got quite a few different, probably about almost every different kind of bike you would want. Brought just a couple of them today to show you what those are like. I'm also, Doug and I are both league certified instructors, so we also go around and teach classes at schools and wherever. I've been at different businesses and churches and all kinds of places. We've taught bike education. So our experience ranges from commuting, touring, racing, and just years of cycling. So by any means, like I said, ask us questions as you have them. Doug, you want to add to that?
Not add too much. I started with my daughter's friend's husband, or father, daughter's friend's father, and we just started biking and then started doing some tours. And I do some commuting to Pine Lake. I can take trails almost all the way to Pine Lake, and there's showers in the basement and some lockers, so we're kind of fortunate to have that. And there's a shower here.
Yep.
So the bank's pretty inviting that way, as far as if you want to commute. There's bike racks to lock up your bikes and things like that. So we've tried, the wellness department's tried to kind of encourage people to give them the tools to be able to commute to work if you wanted, and so that's been a nice feature.
Good. I was going to mention this real quick. I'm also president of the Nebraska Bicycle Alliance, and one of the things that we do is we advocate for safer cycling in Nebraska. And one component that we work with is legislation. And so a couple things we just worked on and thankfully got passed this year, just actually last week, was LD 716 was added crosswalk protection for bikers riding through intersections that are signaled, and we repealed the mandatory side path law. So those that just passed, the governor just signed those last week. So, and then the other one I was going to mention, just to remind you, that we do have in Nebraska the 3 foot to pass law, and that was enacted in 2012. So as someone riding your bike, if you're out on the road, it is the law that they give you at least 3 feet when they go around you. So, I mean, I know we're all probably motorists as well, so just keep that in mind too. So, and that's the other thing too, is I have people come to these classes sometimes and ask, well, I'm not going to ride or ride very much or ride on the streets, but I do see cyclists on the street. So I've had people come and say, I want to know how I should react as a motorist when there's bicycles around. What do I do? Because it makes me nervous. So that's a great question. So I mean, if you have questions like that, we can definitely address those. So today's agenda, we'll talk about the in-street bike lane. The grand opening is tomorrow. I've got the slide coming up on that. How and where to buy a bike. How to get your bike ready for to ride after the winter. Proper fit of your helmet and bike. Our ABC quick check. What to take with you on a bike. I've got some of that stuff laid out up here. And then demonstrate how to fix a flat tire. So we'll try to fly through this, but by all means, like I said, if you have questions, let us know. So tomorrow is the in-street cycle track grand opening, 10:30 at the Elliott School. About 23rd and N Streets is where that's located. So you can easily get there on the bike trail. If you come up like the Rock Island or come up there by the zoo, you can easily get to this spot, and you'll kind of see it. I'm going to show you a quick video that shows you, if you haven't seen N Street, the bike track, if you haven't been on this yet, I'll run this for you real quick and show that. I'm going to hover over that and start that. So I took this is coming off of the trail just north of Lincoln High, and it's in front of Elliott. As you can see the trail there, someone running. So you can see where I'm coming up to N Street, and I'm going to turn onto cycle track. This is kind of where it starts. I did speed this up, but if you're curious, this took me about 11 minutes to go from one end to the other, and I did all the stops. I got stopped at pretty much every spot, and that's kind of been a sore subject with cyclists that use this regularly for commuting. And so the city's been working on that. They're trying to address that issue. They're trying to get the timing and the lights better so that it's a little bit quicker, because you know, some of the diehard commuters that ride the streets, that don't mind riding the streets, almost feel like they'd rather be on the street. So, but you can kind of see how it's designated there for the cyclist. There is a separate, it's kind of hard to see in the video here, but there is a distinct separate signal for the bicyclists. That's different for the pedestrians and different for the cars. You'll see, and it's got a bike symbol in it, and that's just for you as the cyclist if you're using this. And so this will take you all the way down, basically down to get you to the rail yard. You get right down to the arena. So you'll see when I get to the end of this where I end up. But not a bad route, not a bad, I mean, it's a really nice connection. So if you've got, you know, if you need to get access and get downtown that way, this would be great. I think, you know, for kids and families, this will be a nice, route for them to take. I think I filmed this back in end of February. So, and if you end up downtown tomorrow, you might see some more of this similar footage. I have provided this to the city. They're working on a video to compile, and so I think they're going to show some of this on the Cube tomorrow. I filmed it both ways. And when I rode this, just if you're curious, I was running this fat bike, and I had a camera on the front and had a camera on the rear. So I usually run, all my bikes are set up to have a camera mounted up front, and usually I mount the camera on the back. So like on this bike, it's back here and the one up front. So I can switch my cameras, and so when I have a remote that I run with my thumb, and I can take pictures or film video at a moment's notice. And believe me, it's come in handy many times. So as odd as that may sound, it is fun. It's fun to go back and review different rides, group rides, things like that. So, and it does diffuse some situations when people know they're getting filmed. I'll just say that. So people act differently when they know they're on camera. So this gets you about to the end. You get right here close. If you keep going on around, this takes you right to the arena. So it's very nice connection. Like I said, it only took me 11 minutes on this fat bike, and it was really windy that day. Beautiful sunny day, but it was really windy. So yeah. How and where to buy a bike? I would say let's start with the bike shop. I was going to mention before I forget, we talked about it when we first came. We talked about the bank does have an employee fitness loan. So like a bike like this, you can buy with the employee fitness loan. So keep that in mind. It's a great way to buy a bike. So I would recommend you stop at a bike shop. If you don't have a bike, you're thinking about a new bike, the bike shops are great. They're going to have a broad selection of anything you're going to want. And we've kind of got them listed up there, from mountain bike, road bike, cross bike, fitness bike, beach cruiser, fat bike. There's a lot of different kind of bikes there. And they're going to help get you fitted. We're going to talk a little bit about fitting, but the bike shop's going to really get you fitted the best way possible. And you might check around the different bike shops because, today we've got all Specialized bikes up here. And these bikes you can only buy at one bike shop in town. These are Joyride. They are the dealer for Specialized. If you wanted a Trek or a Cannondale, something else, you're gonna need to go to one of the different bike shops. There's CycleWorks. This is a picture of the bike rack. If you haven't been in the bike rack, this is what bike rack just over here at 33rd Pioneers looks like. So as you can see, there's a lot of different bikes, a lot of different accessories. So they're gonna help you find out what your riding style is, what you want, what your goals are, what you want to accomplish, when you're gonna ride. So for example, between these bikes, my road bike is what I put on most of my miles in the summer. You know, I probably put about 4,000 miles a year on this bike. This bike I rode all winter this year. Probably started riding this in October, and between probably in the last month or two, I kind of haven't ridden it as much. You know, I probably put 1,000 miles on this bike over the winter. So you can tell the difference of each bike has their different need. And right now I'm also riding a lot, which I rode this morning to Bennett and back, was my cross bike. So cross bike kind of looks like a road bike, but it's got, and I brought one of my tires, but this was for our flat changing session earlier. This same wheel is what really can go on a road bike, but this goes on my cross bike, and you see it's kind of knobby. It's got, and some of them are even knobbier. This one's kind of wore down, but the cross bike has knobbier tires, and this can go anywhere. I ride a lot of gravel roads. I do some gravel road races, like 100-mile races, like with the state games. So the cross bike handles gravel roads really well, and anything else for that matter. Obviously, the fat bike can do gravel and whatever else you want to. The road bike is pretty much going to be on road. I have taken this on the limestone trails a couple times, like the Mopac or the Homestead Trail, but for the most part, you're going to keep your road bike on the road. So you can put a little bit bigger tire on that. You can't get as big a tire as like what's on this cross bike tire that's got knobs on it. That won't fit on the road bike. But that's why, again, not to overwhelm you with all the different components and things, but hitting the bike shop is a great place to start. And then you're going to have lifetime adjustments. I think all the shops in town have lifetime adjustments. So after your first month or two of riding that new bike, they're going to come back and you're going to want to get the cables adjusted, the brakes are going to get a little bit soft, or the shifting might be a little off because the cables stretch over time. So you're going to want to get those cables dialed back in for you. So that's the beauty of going to a local bike shop. Now that being said, I know some people, and Doug would be one, who sometimes will buy his stuff, off of eBay or Craigslist or wherever that might be, and that's not a bad option either. You'll see people on our for sale page here at the bank have stuff for sale, and that's all right too. Just make sure you know the fit of what you need in a bike as far as how to make sure that fits you right and what your riding style is going to be and your goals are. So there's a lot of different places to buy bikes. And like I said, Doug picked this bike up and switched all the components off of a different frame. So that is a nice way to do it too. So. You doing this one or am I doing this one?
Go ahead.
This was a shot, as you can tell, of me. I think I was coming home from a bike ride, so this winter, riding the fat bike here. And, so this bike is ready to go, I don't know, say year round. I don't need to get ready after winter. But let's say my road bike, which actually in the winter, this guy I hung up in my basement just to take it out of the garage so it wasn't cold. So this bike I hung up in the basement all winter. So obviously the first thing you want to do is take that bike out and give it a good cleaning. So taking the bike and making sure that besides the basic stuff like the tires and the air of the tires, I like to take these, like this bike, I'll take it and I'll put it up on a stand and kind of go through it. Make sure everything's still working right. I'll give it a good cleaning, make sure it's clean. You're going to want to make sure you clean the chain. So when we look at this here, chains on this side. And this bike needs a little more cleaning. The chain and the drivetrain's not the cleanest right now, but this bike last weekend rode to Syracuse and back. So I haven't cleaned it since then. But yeah, this bike, you're going to want to take it down for the winter, kind of go through it, make sure things are still working nice for you. Clean the drive system, Make sure your shifters, if you have a road bike, your shifters are, this is how you brake, this is your rear brake, and then how you shift, that's your shifting. Up shifting, down shifting, all happens right here. It's all integrated. That's the beauty of the technology of the bikes today. It's amazing. This bike does need new tape. My grips are getting kind of wore out, so I need to replace the tape. So again, some maintenance item you can do is replace that. So check your brake pads. Most of these nicer adult bikes that you're going to find, kids bikes typically don't have this, but adult bikes have the quick release, so you can pull this out. Check things out, make sure everything's good with that. If you're going to replace a tire or two, this is where you can check your brake pads, make sure those are clean. So I did, on this bike, I did replace my brake pads and put brand new ones in about a month ago. I looked at cleaning the old ones. You could clean them, scuff them up a little bit, make sure they're not glazed over. That way they're working well for you. But check those brakes over, definitely. Make sure nothing's loose. Make sure it's all in working order for you so that you're good to go. The other thing I like to do, again, since I ride these bikes a lot, my Friday night ritual is to take like this bike, put it on the stand, and go through and clean it. And then my neighbor, who works at the bank, she's always giving me static. It's Friday night, runs out in his driveway, cleaning his bike. What we do with 2, 3 hour, 4 hour rides Saturday mornings, I got to make sure this thing's going to get me to Syracuse and back, for example, and make sure it's working right. So it's a good way to check things over. Are there any cracks? I mean, this is a carbon frame, so it's really durable, but you just never know. Is there a crack somewhere? Is something, is a cable getting frayed, going bad? Again, are the brakes working right? You want to make sure not just that it's clean and looks nice, but it's actually really functional. I did have one time in that process, the stem, which is your stem is right here, which attaches the front fork to your handlebars. This stem cracked. And luckily, because I was doing that cleaning and inspecting, I realized that the stem was cracked and needed replaced. So I couldn't ride the bike the next day, because had it broke, that would have been really bad. So I had to replace that stem. Again, if you're not kind of looking at the bike and taking care of it, maintaining it, you won't know that those things are happening. So that's
Is that a metal stem?
it's aluminum. Yeah.
How did it crack? Just wear and tear?
Yeah. It was this bike's got an interesting story, but yeah, it was an original. It was a 2004 stem,
Okay.
and it was cracking back here with the bolts.
Okay.
So it was it was just old, just wore out.
Okay.
So
What do you check for on the brakes if you have just brakes? I mean, you can't check, it's not the same way, obviously.
right. The disc brakes are kind of similar though. You can check and make sure that the pads aren't wore out too
Okay.
bad, that they're not glazed over. So this fat bike is the same way. The front wheel comes out just the same way, except for the fact that I don't have to open this brake caliper to do that. That you just pull straight out. Now the trick with those two to keep in mind, once you have that wheel pulled out and that disc is not in there, don't hit your brakes, because that self-adjusts and it clamps down and it may clamp shut. And I've known guys to be out on a ride and hit their brake with that wheel out, and then they're stuck trying to pry that back open to get the wheel back in because that didn't clamp shut. So just be careful if you do that. But take it apart. Make sure that you check the pads. Make sure it's working okay. Now, what we also tell kids, and we'll talk about with the ABC Quick Check though, is make sure that you're not pinching a finger, so that if your brake levers come so close to where you pinch a finger between here, they need readjusted. So, and this bike, these are actually hydraulic, so there's no cable in these, it's hydraulic fluid. So I haven't had to do it yet, but at some point I'll take this to the shop and have them flush it, bleed it, put new hydraulic fluid in it. And, I suppose I could do that, but I may have the shop do it. I haven't done that before on this bike. So, but definitely, disc brakes, check the pad just like you would on the caliper type brakes. And you might make sure they're not glazed over, just, take a peek at them. And they need replaced, I don't think they're that hard to replace. Any
Is there
other?
the hydraulics on the patty type bikes, just because the tire's so big, or
It just depends on
is
the
that something
components.
new that we'll see in the future on all bikes?
I've got just wrote it last night. I took my son over to school for an art project, art class, or art show they were having, and rode the tandem. And we have a tandem that's got the same similar size disc brakes on it, and it's capable. So it just depends on what they spec the bike out with. So, but yeah, just, pull your bike out. Besides the basics of airing up the tires, check the brakes, check the drive system, clean the chain. There is a way to measure, and we won't get into that too much, but there is a way to take a ruler and look at your chain. But, there might be some stretch in your chain, so if you haven't changed the chain out in a long time, you might want to do that. This bike, I go through about 2 of these chains a year. Because about every 2,000 miles, I put a new chain on. I know you're probably thinking this guy's nuts for riding that many miles, but that's, yeah. So I end up with about 6,000 miles a year. I'm already almost at 2, so you kind of see how that works out, but that's usually my goal. I like to set a goal for those. Any other questions on what else to do to get your bike ready? You'll notice in the picture here, I've got a fender that I left on, but I've pulled off some of the lights, the tail lights. I do run in the winter bar mitts. Bar mitts are what I slide my hands into. Even though I am wearing gloves, it helps keeps your hands warm, as you can tell. I ride in some cold weather, so and I run with, obviously in the winter, I run lights on my bike, so I've got a lighting system between, I have a different helmet that has a light on top, and then a light that goes on my bike. It's easily interchangeable. I move between bikes as I need to, so you might think about that. So, other questions about getting your bike ready after winter? Okay.
All right, we're gonna talk about helmets next. I guess the most important thing is don't skimp on a helmet. Price-wise, you find them in all different price ranges, but when you're protecting your head in case of a brain injury, you don't want to say, well, I wish I would have spent a little bit more on my helmet. Also, another thing is kind of with getting your bike ready after winter. If you've had this helmet hanging in your garage for a while, this styrofoam will get a little brittle. They've got a date on here when this is a December 2012 helmet when it was created. So after how many years usually?
They say 4 to 5 years
5
is
years.
about the life, because again, that styrofoam does deteriorate and break down over time. So you should replace that old helmet if you've got one.
Keep that in mind because you want to make sure that it'll work when you need it to. As far as fitting goes, it's not going to do you any good either if you don't wear it properly. So a lot of these have various adjustments, have dials on the back, some of the newer brands, or some way to kind of adjust it, but you want to get it to fit on here pretty snug. And you want to get wear it to where it's like 2 fingers above your eyebrow. Okay, you don't want it like this because it's you want more air, or you don't want it too far down. It's not going to help you in the back. So they're kind of built to sit right on top with about 2 fingers here. And then you want to make sure your straps on the side come to where they come to a V here down by your ear. They're fully adjustable so you can play with these, but you want to get them to where it fits here, snug to your ear. That keeps it from doing a lot of tipping if you get to crash. And then you want to get it to where it's fairly snug, but you can look down and not really get a lot of tightness down here. So everything's adjustable. Just make sure you've got it set to go before you get started when you're riding. And again, if you ever have a crash or you run this into something or it falls from a high distance, there's a good chance it probably needs to be replaced. Even these plastic shells on the outside get brittle after time, and especially if they're out in the heat or the sun a lot. So just make sure you're review your helmet, look it over, keep it clean, make sure hasn't gotten brittle or damaged in any way, and keep it in good shape, and it'll protect you. Any questions on helmets?
And you can buy helmets, you can go to the bike shop, they got a good selection there, but, you can buy them anywhere. They should have some certifications on them. You'll find even at Target or Walmart, you'll find the Bell helmets, and those are an okay brand. I think Bell actually probably makes a lot of them, they just rebrand them. But yeah, definitely look around. It's good to try them on, because you'll see that some of them definitely fit different. You'll have particular taste about what you like. You can color coordinate if you guys like, I don't know. Not that I do that. But yeah, that's me in the middle, if you didn't know. So, yeah. So yeah, definitely make sure you dress in a good helmet. And I just absolutely have a couple of them, so I do have a couple helmets. So they're handy to have around. And then yes, replace them as time goes by.
You mentioned pay for quality. Is there a certain helmet brand that's better than others? Just what we like.
No, I mean, you can spend $250 to $300 on a helmet, and you can spend, $100 or less. A lot of them have, they're going to have different air holes and different ways to be breathable and different adjustments, and some are more aerodynamic and everything, but
Just what you like.
yeah.
I think I don't go crazy on helmets, just price wise. I mean, you get out there, if you spend anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 bucks on a helmet, that's fine.
Okay.
And he's right. Some of these helmets I've never bought a helmet, just so you know, I've never bought a helmet more than $100. Because I know I'm gonna, they're gonna wear out. I'm gonna replace them, so I don't spend crazy money on them. So I think I bought this one. I bought this one last year out in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. It's at their bike shop and liked it, and they had a good price on it. I think I spent $30 on this helmet. So you don't need to spend crazy amounts. Actually, it was so cheap, I almost bought one in red, but my wife thought I was nuts. So I'm trying to color coordinate.
We're going to move to bike fit next. It's very important because it leads to comfort while you ride. So there's a lot of different things you can do with your bike to increase your comfort level. The seat height is one. The pedal length, this stem in your pedals, there's different sizes you can get there. The stem, they come in different angles and lengths. So this one I put on to get me a little higher so I'm not so bent over. So there's many different adjustments you can do. These seats can move forward and backward. I had some knee pain and I watched some videos on bike fitting, and part of the problem was I was sitting too far forward and that was giving me some knee pain. So there's so many different things that you can adjust. You can look on the internet and watch videos, and everybody's got different recommendations on how high your seat ought to be and where it should be located. So you can check those out, especially if it's just not comfortable for you to ride. As far as seats go, Brent and I were talking about this before. We're not sure there's any place in town, any of the bike shops that let you just try a seat out. That's going to be probably your biggest pain point is your seat. But there may be some shops that have some demo bike seats that will just kind of pop this whole stem out and the seat out and put a new one in and let you try that one and take it around on a little 5-minute ride. And then if you don't like that one, then maybe let you try another one. So we're not sure what shops may do that, but it would be nice if they did, because you hate spending money on a new seat to find it's not giving you the comfort level you're looking for.
And they're pretty good. If you're buying a new bike and the seat's not right, they'll work with you. I mean, help you out, help get you fitted. Like Doug mentioned, there are some different videos online to go figure out. Luckily, for me, I know the seats that usually come stock fit me well. The width is 143 millimeters, and that's based on, again, you're concerned about your sit bones and where those land. And if you go online, there's a way to check, like use a piece of cardboard and sit down on a thicker piece of cardboard to figure out how wide your seat bones are. That helps you get the right seat. So that kind of helps. That's one way. So that's just getting the right width and the right saddle. Most of the seats I ride have hardly any cushion. So I don't need a lot of cushion in the seat. And a lot of people have different ideas on how that should be, but I don't need one with a lot of cushion. I will caveat that to say that we do, as cyclists, a lot of times we are wearing padded shorts. If you didn't know that, so the padded shorts are really nice. That helps, but that doesn't take care of all of it. But sometimes a more padded seat over time is not going to be as comfortable either. So, but you have to find out what works for you. Like I said, bike shops
Yeah,
will
they'll work
help you
with
out.
you, based on kind of your inseam, how long your legs are, and arms and stuff. They'll find a bike size that will fit you well. They'll let you probably test out a couple to make sure they work good for you.
I'm going to say, I don't know if you realize, but these two bikes are actually almost the same bike. You may not, other than size of the frame, they're both specialized Roubaix. And I was going to point out the stem. So Doug's got his stem pointed more up, mine's more level. Again, it puts you in a different position. And the beauty of a bike with a road bike handlebars is you can have your hands up here on the hoods, you can be down in your drops, you can be up here, although when you're up here you can't get to your brakes, so keep that in mind. So as we do group rides and teach people how to ride in groups, again, something to think about when we're watching people and make sure they're doing the right things is, here I've got access to my brakes and my shifting, and up here. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind. But yeah, the setup of these bikes, there are so many different things you can do, and you can rotate these handlebars a little bit, or change like the stem, seat. He was talking about the crank arm length. You kind of you eventually get a preference, but when you go to a bike shop, they're going to really help get you fitted in that ride. So I'm going to talk about the quick, easy rule of thumb to set up your bike if you first get one is you're gonna put this crank arm at the lowest position, and then when you're seated on the bike, you're gonna have a slight bend in your knee when you're at this bottom. Okay, you're gonna have a slight bend. You can take a piece of string and put a washer or a weight or something on it to do a plumb line. And if you're on the bike and you run this plumb line right below your kneecap, it's going to go right through the center of your foot and right through the center of this pedal axle. That generally gets you about where you need to be height-wise so that you know that your seat is the right height. Because like Doug said, if your seat's too low, you're going to have pain in the front of your knee. If your seat's too high, you're going to have pain in the back because you're overextending your leg. Because you want just a slight bend in your leg. So when you're at the very bottom stroke. I see people all the time that I can just watch them ride, seats too low or seats too high. And the other thing, not all bikes, especially these bikes, if this is set up correctly, which I know this is, I cannot sit on this seat and touch the ground. So I see people stop at the stoplight, and if they are sitting on their seat and their feet are touching the ground, some cruiser bikes or beach bikes are designed that way, that's fine. But most of these bikes that you're going to have, most of us probably have, your bike's probably not set up quite right. You can sit on the seat and touch the ground, your seat's too low. So, and when we teach kids this too, we tell them to make sure that, when you're stopped at a stoplight, you get off the seat. You move forward, you're standing over the bike, okay? And on a road bike, you should have only about an inch or two of clearance. So if you pick up the bike, you don't have a lot of clearance. On a bike like this, or a mountain bike, or a cross bike, you want a little bit more clearance when you're standing over. So the stand over clearance needs to be 2 to 4 inches. And nowadays, with the way the bikes are designed, you have top tubes that slope a lot, or you've got women's bikes, which The top tubes really go down low, which is great. So, so it just depends. But for the most part, like I said, if you're at a stoplight, I can't get up on them. I shouldn't be able to get on my seat and be on my pedals. That's not going to work. It's not fitted quite right for me. So,
Any questions?
yeah, questions on?
Okay, this is kind of a ABC Quick Check. It's kind of a system that the League of American Bicyclists have come up with, and it's something we train kids on, and it's kind of easy to remember. So ABC stands for air, brakes, and chain crank cassette. Quick is the quick release, and check is just for final inspection. So you definitely want to make sure your bike tires are aired up, and the air will kind of leak out of them just over time. So I pretty much pump mine up every time I go for a ride, make sure most of the, if you get a decent pump, it'll have a dial there that you can dial in a certain pressure on your tires so that you're rolling. You get better rolling resistance if you've got them pumped up. If you're really low, it's going to be a lot more laboring when you try.
And you could get pinch flats. So especially on a road bike, if your tire pressure is not where it should be, it's called a snake bite or a pinch flat, where that tire will hit a bump and it will compress it so much that it punctures and puts two little bites in it. So that's another reason why. Read the tire pressure on the sidewall. That'll help make sure you get it right.
Also, when you're kind of putting air in your tire, just inspect it. You know, if your bike's been sitting in the garage for a while, your tires can get kind of crusty, and they'll lose their function as being able to keep you safe with your tires. Make sure you haven't lost your tread and that isn't worn off and everything. Just kind of make sure that your tires and the air pressure and everything looks good. Brakes, you don't want to head down a steep driveway and get to the street and find out your brakes don't work. So, just before you even get on, you can, or you're standing over them before you take off, just make sure they're working properly. As Brent said, they can be adjusted a couple of ways. There's usually a little dial here next to the brake that you can play with and get it to increase or decrease the pressure on your brake. We talked a little bit about brake pads already. They do get kind of old and crusty over time. If you can take them off pretty easily with an Allen wrench and replace them, or try and put a little nail file or use a emery board or something, try and kind of rough them up, get them to where you're down to some good rubber again, and make sure that those are in good working order before you head down the driveway. Chain, cranks, cassette, lots of times if you just turn your bike over and get it set down, you can get a pretty good inspection on what's going on with your chain. You want to keep it clean. You don't want to over lube it. So what you typically do is you'll wipe this down real good with a towel or a rag. You'll add some oil or a special bike chain lube, and then you wipe it back off. Because really what you want to do is you want oil to get down into the rollers and things down inside, but any excess oil you want to get off of there, because it'll just attract dirt and grime and sand and stuff will get on that. So you want to keep it clean but keep it lubed. And then this is your cassette, which has all the different gears on there. You just want to make sure that doesn't get all gunked up, especially if you've ever put too much oil on this. That ends up getting on the cassette, and then that ends up accumulating all your sand and dirt and stuff. So you can pretty much, use an old toothbrush or whatever, or maybe some degreaser, and get this kind of all scraped, brushed off and cleaned up, and try and keep it clean and keep an eye on that. And this is your front gears. You'll either maybe have 2 or 3 gears up front, depending on what kind of bike you buy. So just give it a good inspection, make sure it stays clean and in good working order. If you're riding down the street and you're having trouble with it, changing gears, either your wires here are stretched out or your cables are stretched out. Sometimes you can make little adjustments back here, but if you're having consistent problems, I just take it back to the bike shop and have them run through that. There's a lot of videos online too of how to maintain your bike and adjust your gears and things like that if you're ever interested in trying to accomplish that yourself. It's not that hard, but you've got to know what you're doing. There's different set screws and things here you can use to adjust your gear changing. Let's see. Quick release, Brent already talked about that, but you want to make sure that these are nice and tight when you've taken your tire out to change it or whatever, and you put this back, they kind of screw in, and then this last lever comes down and really locks it down. You want to make sure that that's got some fairly decent pressure when you're trying to get that locked down on your bike. There's various schools of thought of where to put these two when you crank them down. You don't want them near the frame here, near the bar. You don't want them sticking way out to where they can accidentally get tripped open, or you run up to another bike, that bike gets it tripped open, so you want to keep it pretty close to where it's protected here by the bar. All right. And then overall, if you can pick up your bike and kind of bounce it, I've got a little bit of noise in my front here I've got it fixed. But if you hear anything rattling or banging around or sounds loose, then you probably have something you need to get taken a look at to make sure nothing's rattling, nothing's loose. You don't have any issues that you got to deal with. Yeah.
I was gonna say, Mike, since I ride a bike pretty much every day, I keep these all pretty much in working order. I like to go out and make sure I check it the night before, and the main thing I check the night before is to make sure my tire's not flat. So when I get out, I head out for a 5:30 ride every morning. So first thing I do, so some night, like tonight, when I get home, this bike will get a once over probably, but I just walk out there to the garage, check the tires, are they feeling good? Yep, I'm good. So when I walk out there tomorrow morning, I'm not going to be surprised with a flat tire. So again, that's a good thing to do. But yeah, the drop test is nice to make sure nothing's loose. But that little ABC quick check, that happens in a matter of seconds, minutes. As I roll out, I'm getting ready to out for a ride, grab my helmet, and I put some gloves on, grab your bike, check the brakes, boom, just pick it up, nothing's loose, you're good to go. I mean, that's as quick as that's gonna take, and you do it almost on every ride. And then as I'm rolling down the driveway, they do one more quick check of the brakes before I hit the street, and I know I'm good. So I mean, that process is just seconds. It's just something to keep in mind that you wanna make sure, again, everything's in working order for you. So what to take on a ride? We're getting tight on time, but bike shops have a lot of this stuff, and if you ever have questions, by all means, let us know. I have taken other employees to the bank, from the bank to bike shops and picked out stuff that they needed. Things like pumps. So when you're on a ride, these are different kind of pumps that you'll want to use. This one's just a CO2 cartridge. This one here, it takes a CO2 cartridge, which you can screw in this way, but it's also a hand pump. So I've had times where I've had enough flats that you're out of CO2, and so your only option is to hand pump it or borrow a buddy's if someone's with you. So it's good to carry extra one of those, but yeah, having a barrel pump like this is nice to have with you just in case. So there's that. There is the spare tube. So just if you're curious, this is the spare tube. This is a tube out of the fat bike. The fat bike is tubeless now. If I do ride it long distance, I will take this and take it with me, as crazy as that sounds, but just in case, on some rides. But yeah, this tube right here fits my road bike. And so what you'll see is I have a little bit of money in there, and I have the two basic sizes that I need for an Allen wrench. So it's a number 4 and a number 5. So I can easily use those, and the black electrical tape is there for a reason too. If you happen to have a mechanical and you need some electrical tape, I can peel off some of that black electrical tape, and let's say I break a spoke, which I tend to do occasionally, I can take that spoke that's broke and tape it to another spoke so it's not flopping around. And if that happens to you, what's going to generally happen too is your wheel will be out of alignment then. So you'll have to, like on the road bikes, you can open up the brakes so that your brake caliper opens up, because that wheel is now a little bit wobbly so you can get home. So just something to keep in mind. But this will adjust most everything on these bikes if something comes loose. Stems, wherever, seat posts, this will fit in here. So that's a good one to have. Some people like to carry just, this is a park tool. This has all the different Allen wrenches sizes, so there's a lot on that. You will need a set of tire levers. We'll show you those here hopefully in a minute. But there's usually a set of 3, and they come in all different styles, so you may find a style that you like. But the tire levers will help you get the tire off the rim, so you definitely need those and know how to use them. We have done group rides where we've met before a group ride, like here at the bank, and we've done practices where we've let you practice changing a flat. So if you ever need help with that, let me know. So those are the basics you would need to have with you. Depending on where you're going and what you're doing, you might need a bike lock. This has a bike lock. I just happen to bring this one. This is one that I send on my kids' bikes, but it looks like a water bottle. It's got a key. That one's got a code. So this pulls out, so you can lock up your bike. It's kind of a nice, slick way to kind of carry that with you and have that with you. To make sure you can lock up your bike. The key hides in the bottom. Have a spare key somewhere else at home. But that way you can take that lock with you easily. Don't forget food. So when I go on rides, I usually take a Cliff Bar and some gel shots and chews. So it depends on what you like, what you're used to. Obviously banana's an easy one as well. You can make your own stuff. If you want to make some homemade stuff, that's great too. But make sure you have enough nutrition for you. Besides that, this is not a water bottle for a bike, but make sure you have water with you or some kind of hydration. Maybe a little bit of Gatorade. You'll see these bikes have 2 bottle cages. If I go on long rides, I will carry 1 water, 1 with like a Gatorade drink in it. That way you get some electrolytes. And then I will also have a 3rd bottle I carry in my back jersey pocket. So I know how I need more hydration than some people, so I carry 3 bottles on most rides. Besides that, we might take a patch kit in case you have more flats than you carry tubes. You can have a little patch kit, which will help you out as well. So make sure you have that. That's just the basics. I also brought, just to show you, if you're riding at dark or night or early morning, you're going to want to have a nice tail light. Make sure you put tail lights on your bike.
Some people ride that all day, any time of the day they'll use a tail light just to it brings people's attention to your headlight flashing.
And I do that too now. I've got to where, and they make some nice tail lights nowadays with the LEDs and technology we have. They're super bright, and they do help in the daytime. So it is nice to have a good tail light. I mentioned the cameras. I run 2 of these cameras most of the time, and then it's good to have this is a GPS Garmin cycling computer that you can take with you. All my bikes have it where this little strap on, this one goes up there on this bike, it goes on the stem on that bike, but this is nice to know your distance, where you're at. So I also have it on my watch. My watch is a Garmin, does the same thing. So you can have it on your watch if you would rather have it there as well. And then, comfort things, gloves, depending on the time of year and where you're riding. You might, gloves help. Most of these gloves have some padding in them, so they help with your hand, and then in case you crashed. Kind of helps.
We didn't bring any sample of shorts though, but you can, again, spend a variety of amounts of money for padded shorts. You can get a decent pair, you know, for, I don't know, $50 or something, but you can spend all the way up to $300 for a pair of shorts. You know, spend what you wish, but they are worth it, and getting a good pair of shorts with a good pad in it. And, besides having a seat that works real good for you is very important to your comfort and your overall enjoyment of your ride. Bike shirts typically are made of a fabric that wicks the water away and evaporates quickly. They typically also have 3 pockets in the back, because your bike shorts, some bike shorts, unless you use like mountain bike short or whatever, don't have pockets, so you gotta have somewhere to put your stuff. So definitely, occasionally the bank puts in an order for shirts of the Team Impact shirts that we've had over the years, and